Hello there, this is Łukasz, your GSI for Panos SFIA class, and in this video I will talk about macroeconomic forecasts. I'll show you how to obtain long-term economic growth projections, and this data should be useful for you to challenge growth assumptions made by market participants such as sell-side analysts, and it should also help you build your own forecasting or valuation models going forward. So I'll be discussing two resources. The first one is the Livingston survey. Those are a high quality long-term forecast for the US economy. And this is based on the survey of professionals who forecast those numbers. Of course, the Livingston survey is only available for the US economy. So to go beyond US and obtain forecasts for the variety of different economies, I will show you another resource, which is a Pmi Research. Here you can get all types of macroeconomic indicators for very many different economies, and also some aggregates, such as the global economy. Finally, I will also present to you a spreadsheet model that we built for you that will summarize in a very convenient way the most relevant figures for you so that you don't have to access this resource every time. So let's get started. Let's get started with the Livingston survey. So this is a publicly available data. So it will be available from Google. You click the first link, and here you see recent releases of the Livingston survey. And let me start with the June 2018 one. If you scroll down, you will have predictions for the long-term output growth, and that's what you are looking for. So you can read here, the forecasts predict that the real GDP will grow at 2.2% annually over the next 10 years, and that inflation, the CPI, will be 2.3 roughly percent annually over the next 10 years. Of course, you are interested in nominal GDP growth. Why? Because usually all kinds of estimates that are available in FactSet, Bloomberg, and elsewhere concerning listed entities are made in current dollars. So those are like expressed in nominal terms. So for example, every time you see earnings or earnings per share or book value per share forecast, those are expressed in nominal terms. Nominal, or in other words, in current US dollars. To get the nominal GDP growth, you will need to combine real GDP growth, which is a GDP in constant dollars, or whatever the currency is, and the forecast of inflation rate. How do you do that? Well, you can simply add those two numbers. So 2.2 real GDP growth plus 2.3 inflation rate will give you the estimate of nominal GDP growth for the long term for 10 years for the US economy at 4.5%. The alternative to summing those two numbers would be multiplying them by first adding one and then subtracting one. But if the numbers are small, that the approximation by simply summing is really good enough. So just add those two numbers and it will be fine. Another thing in the Livingston survey, if you scroll down, you have the more granular data here, and in the very end, you have 10-year forecast. And here you have the complete set of descriptive statistics. So we are usually using the median because we want to exclude the impact of outsiders. So we usually use median, and this is also the number referred to in the text. But if you were interested in other statistics, here you can get them. Going back to Livingston survey, this is the survey is prepared on a biannual basis, so it's updated every half a year. So now you can access the recent update, which is December 2018. And if you go to the discussion about inflation and output growth, you will see that there was a slight downward correction for those estimates. So now the inflation is at 2.2%, and real GDP growth is at 2.1% roughly. So again, combining those two figures to get the nominal GDP growth estimate will give you 4.3 compared to 4.5 from the previous period, which was June 2018. So as you can see, growth GDP, nominal GDP growth forecast is a moving target. So that's why you have to always go back and verify your assumptions. That would be it for the Livingston survey. One last thing is that the biggest limitation of that survey is that it's only about US economy. So that's why we wanted to show you another resource that would be useful for economies outside the US and the aggregates. So for that, you would use Pmi Research. But to access it, you first need to go to the library website. You probably know it by now, but the access to the databases such as Pmi Research, which is a paid subscription service, for that you will need to be on campus, or if not on campus, you will have to connect from off campus using a VPN connection. We have another video on how to establish VPN connection, so please refer to that one if you didn't do that yet. So going back to Pmi Research, here you would need to click Find Database by Subject. It's not listed here. And you are interested in country profiles and economic data, click it here. Again, a variety of resources. For example, OECD and World Bank, those are another good resources to go to view macroeconomic data. Also, Economist Intelligence Unit, it's widely used for country reports that are detailed and they kind of provide some story behind the estimates. So those are useful for you, but this is a digression. What I would like to show you today is Business Monitor Online, which is a Pmi Research. This will be a go-to resource for long-term forecasts. Okay, here is the main interface and the application. If you go to Key Global Forecast and you click the Explore button down there, after a short while, it will take you to the main application. And again, the interface is pretty intuitive, and I will just quickly walk you through that. So here is the plotting area. On the left-hand side, you choose your options. So starting with geography, let's say I want to view a data for global aggregate and compare it to the US. I'm choosing indicator. I'm not interested in commodity prices at this point. I will be interested in macro data, but not all macro data. I'm interested in GDP specifically. And I'm interested in nominal GDP in US dollars. Of course, I can choose the local currency variant if I'm using if I'm looking at different countries, but I would encourage you to use US dollars because this improves the comparability between the countries. I'm also getting a percent growth. I can get real GDP growth. For example, just for comparison purposes, you can choose any indicator you would like to, just to illustrate. And here is the data ranges. So we are interested in forecasts. So I will choose all the years forward. And this is the real advantage. This is the key advantage of Pmi Research, which is provided by Fitch, is that those forecasts are really long term. So you have 10 years of forecast data, which gives an advantage over, for example, IMF data. So International Monetary Fund, it's also a great resource, but their forecast horizon is 5 years, whereas here you have an access to 10 years. Frequency, I'm choosing annual frequency. Okay. And here I have a choice between downloading the raw data, which I could use with Excel, or simply displayed. I'll just illustrate and display it. Okay, it works. So first of all, this plot is not really useful because you can see that some series are in percentage terms while the others are in levels in billion US dollars. So I can go to format on the right and I can plot growth rates on the secondary axis. Update chart. Now it's more helpful. So now you can, for example, track the nominal GDP growth rate for the next 10 years, and you have a data in tabular format below the plot. But for your convenience, we summarized this data and we prepared for you the spreadsheet. Here it is. So if you take a look at the first page, the most important data is already here. So in the summary here, you will see the long-term nominal GDP growth rates for the United States, for the global economy, which is the aggregate of all countries, and also for the global economy, but excluding United States. As you can see, US economy will grow in the long term, it will grow at the rate of 4%. The global economy will grow at a higher rate, 5.7%, which is consistent with global aggregate, also including emerging economies. And if we exclude US, the growth will be even higher at 6.2%. And those are the most important summary data, which you will eventually use to verify the implied growth rates in analyst models or their forecasts, right? So this is the go-to tool for the storytelling and for challenging the stories of other people. But if you are interested in looking at the growth rates in a greater detail, you can go to the All Countries tab. And in this sheet, you can see those are the nominal, this is the nominal GDP forecasted for the future periods. All is expressed in the US dollars. Here you have selected aggregates. So those are like regions, and then United States and global economy without the United States is here. Of course, we use the nominal levels to calculate the growth rates. You can preview the formulas and see how it's all calculated. And here in the last column, you will have the long-term growth rates in that 10-year forecast horizon. So this is exactly the same data as on the first page. United States will grow at 4%, global economy at 5.7%, and the global economy without the United States at 6.2%. Of course, here you can use filter to find some other country that might be of interest to you. For example, Poland, and you can add Poland to the current selection. As you can see, for example, the Polish economy will grow at the long term a nominal GDP growth rate of 6.7%. Of course, the list here is pretty comprehensive. You will have many different countries here, so feel free to locate whatever you might need. This can be actually useful if you have a detailed data, detailed forecast data that is decomposed into specific geographical segments. So for example, if you know where the company is selling to, then you can mix those estimates and create some kinds of weighted averages to arrive at even better benchmark for the long-term growth. The last step is simply the data as downloaded from the Pmi Research that we just showed. So this will be useful for updating the model in the future periods because, as I told you, the GDP growth is a moving target, but we'll take care of updating this model for you. Feel free to use that data here and whatever you might need. So that would be all. Hopefully, this will be useful for you to construct your own valuation models and also to criticize other people's stories and their beliefs and benchmark them. And that would be it. Thank you so much. And of course, as always, feel free to reach us if you had any questions. We'll be happy to help you. Goodbye.